Every morning before I go to school, I tattoo my forehead. Upon hearing this for the first time, many people are shocked. Do his parents know about this? Is this because of all the rap music that he's been listening to? Is he turning into a thug? These are all some common miscues. The reality is, I don't tattoo my forehead. I apply my tilak chanlo. Tilak is the sandalwood paste on the outside of the chanlo, which is the red dot. My tilak chanlo that I do in my daily prayers serves as a mark of devotion that reminds me of who I am and what I stand for. The simple act of doing it may not seem like much, but in high school, where fitting in with the crowd is ordinary, standing out becomes a daily act of courage. If we take a look in high schools today, we see kids like myself rocking a bird's nest on the top of their head. Why? So they fit in. So that brings us to a question. Is identity a bridge or a barrier? This question is applicable to all high schoolers, all young people, teenagers who have ever stood out, felt different, and has wondered, do I belong here or am I just looking to blend in? So let's keep it real. Identity is not always a bridge. When I was younger, I would always come up with some lame excuse to cover up the fact about applying my tilak chanlo, being vegetarian, or explaining my faith to everyone. The best one being, I'm allergic to meat. When I was in the sixth grade, I remember kids asking me if I had a target on my head, if I was bleeding. The best one being if I had a Wi Fi button on my head. In these tense moments, identity feels like a barrier. It feels like something separating you from everyone else. Every teenager has faced something like this. For some, it's something broad, like your culture, your religion, your language, your values. And for others, it's something so nitpicky, like the way you dress or the music you listen to. Nevertheless, we all have something that makes us stand out, and standing out feels terrifying. My turning point did not come from some life changing event or a ceremony. It happened in the most unexpected place, a group project in history class. Everybody was arguing about where to go to eat before we started on our presentation. Then someone from the group asked me, where should we go to eat? Someone else quickly cut me off, saying, oh, he can't eat anything anyways. Everyone laughed, including me. But then I explained the real reason behind my dietary restriction, claiming that was a religious reason to practice a life of patience and peace. The whole group was silent. Then someone from the crowd shouted, that's cool and unique, and the others added on. I viewed my identity as a bridge, not a barrier. I realized it was a bridge to understanding, bridge to connection, a bridge to conversations. I wasn't the kid who wore a red dot anymore. I was the kid who stood for something. Wearing your identity on your forehead literally teaches you a lot. So I have 3 lessons that are applicable to everyone's life. Lesson 1. People will notice before they understand. And that's okay. We live in a world that's built on first impressions. But sometimes the things that make people look twice are the same things that make them respect you later on. Lesson 2. You can't hide and lead. Everyone wants to lead, whether that's in a friend group, in school, clubs, or even our future careers. But no great leader came from trying to hide and blend in with the crowd. They all stood out, and that's exactly what we should do. Lesson 3. Identity becomes a barrier only when we make it to be one. In our internal world often causes our insecurities rather than the external world. When I viewed my identity as a burden, it blocked me like a barrier. When I viewed my identity as a strength, it held me up like a bridge. The shift oftentimes is within yourself rather than the outside world. In the future, I would like to be a corporate lawyer. That decision came from when I was much younger. My parents asked me the universal question: doctor, lawyer, or engineer? At first, I felt oppressed because I felt like I didn't have a choice. But as I grew older, I came to realize those stereotypes were true for good reasons, as those professions usually have the most success. I embraced cultural normality. I viewed my identity as a bridge, not a barrier. You may not wear a red dot or you may not be vegetarian, but that's okay. The fact is asserting yourself as loudly, as proudly, as imperfectly, and as publicly as you can. Your identity can be your greatest advantage, regardless of your hopes, dreams, future career plans, or even your failures. So that brings us to a question. Are you building your identity with a bridge or are you building it with a barrier? And remember, the world doesn't need more copies. It needs originals, originals who build bridges. Thank you.